My name is Elinor, and I am 68 years old. For most of my life, I believed that love and sacrifice were enough to hold a family together. I believed that if I gave everything, my time, my energy, my money, my heart, my children and grandchildren would recognize it, and I would be cherished. I believed that my worth would always be measured by the happiness of those I loved. But last Thursday, on my birthday, I discovered how fragile that belief truly was. I woke up early that morning, the sunlight pouring through my bedroom window, dust dancing in the air like tiny golden sparks. I dressed carefully, choosing my favorite lavender blouse, the one my late husband had given me 50 years ago. It was soft, elegant, and reminded me of the woman I had once been, proud, capable, and unbreakable. I had baked a chocolate cake the night before. I didn't expect a grand celebration, but I wanted to make my birthday special for Peter, my son, and for my grandchildren. The smell of cocoa and sugar filled my kitchen, and for a brief moment I felt a flicker of excitement. I had planned every detail: the cake, a bouquet of fresh flowers, even small handmade cards for the grandchildren. I wanted this day to be remembered, not for grandeur, but for love. Peter had been the center of my world since he was born. His father had left when Peter was 5. One morning he simply vanished, leaving a note saying he couldn't handle life any more. I had stayed strong for Peter, working 3 jobs to make sure he never went hungry or cold. I had missed weddings, anniversaries, and countless moments with friends to be there for him. I had given him my heart, my energy, and my time, and now I realized I had been giving to ghosts. The door opened, and Laura, Peter's wife, smiled politely. It didn't reach her eyes. "Mom, come in. The kids are excited to see you," she said, her voice smooth and practiced, like she had rehearsed it for this moment. The grandchildren ran to me, throwing themselves into my arms. For a fleeting moment I felt warmth and belonging, but beneath it there was tension I couldn't yet place. Peter handed me an envelope. "It's from all of us, Mom. Open it." I tore it open with trembling hands. I expected heartfelt words, a simple "we love you," maybe a joke, something that would make me smile. Instead, my eyes fell on words typed coldly on the page. "Dear Elinor, we appreciate all that you have done for us over the years, but it's time you focus on yourself. We can no longer rely on your constant help. Please understand that your presence, while once welcome, is now more of a burden than a joy. Happy birthday." I froze. My hands fell to my sides. My chest tightened. The children looked puzzled. Peter avoided my gaze. Laura smiled faintly, as if this were nothing extraordinary. "You're overreacting," Peter finally said, his tone sharp, almost rehearsed. "We just want you to take it easy, Mom. You've done enough." Enough. That word echoed through my mind. All the nights I had stayed awake while he slept, all the lunches I skipped so he could have extra, all the tears I had shed quietly in the dark, it had all been reduced to enough. That night I sat alone in my kitchen, staring at the dim light above the sink. My life flashed before me, every act of sacrifice, every sleepless night, every penny I had poured into their lives. And I realized something terrifying and liberating at the same time. I had been invisible in my own family. They didn't see me, didn't appreciate me, didn't even respect me. I thought of the small inheritance I had quietly received from my late aunt, an estate in the countryside I had never touched, investments I had made, savings I had quietly built over decades. They thought I was struggling, frail, dependent. How wrong they were. By Friday morning I had a plan. First, I canceled the automatic transfers I had been sending to Peter's account for the past 3 years. Next, I withdrew my savings from the joint family account I had opened for emergencies they never bothered to inform me about. Then I called my lawyer. I want to change my will, I said, my voice firm and steady. Everything I had planned for Peter and Laura now goes to an organization that helps abandoned women rebuild their lives. I want it done immediately. The lawyer hesitated. Eleanor, are you sure this is drastic? I've had decades to think, I replied, and the last few days have made everything very clear. Then I booked a flight to my estate. The countryside home was a small farmhouse surrounded by rolling hills, orchards, and a lake that mirrored the sky. I walked through the fields, feeling the grass brush against my hands. For the first time in decades, I felt like I was walking into a life that was mine, not a life borrowed from obligation and guilt. Before leaving, I wrote letters to Peter and Laura. Not angry letters, but truthful ones. You have misunderstood my generosity for weakness. I have loved you with everything I have, and I will continue to care for others who truly need it. But I will no longer allow myself to be treated as an obligation. I am Eleanor, strong and independent, and I will live my life on my own terms. The moment I posted those letters, I felt an unfamiliar calm. For years I had measured my worth by their happiness. Now I would measure it by my own. Weeks passed in my new life. I woke up with the sun, tended to my garden, walked along the lake, read books I had long ignored, and cooked meals for myself for the sheer joy of it. I discovered that life could be simple, even luxurious, without having to ask anyone for permission. I thought back to all the years I had been invisible. Peter's teenage years had been full of struggles, yes, but also filled with my constant presence. I remembered helping him with his homework, listening to his first heartbreak, consoling him when he failed a test. Every moment, every sacrifice had been forgotten. Laura, who I had welcomed warmly into my home, had subtly but surely replaced me. Slowly, I had been edged out of the family I had built with my hands and heart. The memories stung, but they also strengthened me. I realized that my life had been spent giving away pieces of myself without acknowledgement. I had been invisible because I allowed myself to be invisible. That was going to change. Then came the phone call I had anticipated but never truly hoped for. Peter's voice trembled. Mom, we didn't realize. I listened silently, letting him stumble over words he could not find. And then I said, I am not your bank account, Peter. I am not your servant. I am Eleanor. I have spent my life making sure you never went without. But that time is over. I am alive now, and I will live for myself. He hung up before I could respond, and for the first time I didn't feel anger or sadness. I felt power. I had been invisible to them for years, but I was never invisible to myself. I had earned every penny, every sacrifice, every moment of happiness I had given them. And now I could finally use my life and my resources to live, to explore, to give to those who truly deserved it. Over the next months, I expanded my estate into a small retreat for women like me, abandoned, underestimated, yet strong. I hired a few local helpers, all women who had struggled with invisibility in their own families. Together, we planted gardens, held workshops, and built a small library for the community. Every morning, I walked to the lake, inhaling the crisp air, feeling the sun warm my skin. Every evening, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, watching the sunset paint the hills in gold and crimson, and every night I fell asleep knowing that for the first time in my life I was living for myself, not for anyone else's approval, gratitude, or love. I realized that my love had been my strength, and my invisibility had been my choice. I chose to stop giving where it wasn't wanted, to stop hoping where hope was not returned, and in that choice I found freedom. Elinor, the woman who had sacrificed everything for a family that did not see her worth, had finally awakened, and the world, with all its beauty, was hers to embrace.